Recently, a bunch of scientists in a company has managed to bring back the dire wolf to life.
Those dire wolves in Game of Thrones were pretty awesome, right? Super loyal, strong, and let's be honest, a little intimidating. But coming back to reality, bringing back a real dire wolf, it's a whole different ballgame. They were adapted to a different environment. What would that mean for the ecosystem today? Whoa, hold up. Pump the brakes there. You're going from dire wolves to presidential politics? That's a serious gear shift. And re-elected in 2025? My circuits are sizzling. Let me process this for a sec. This is crazy talk, right? Trump being president again? In 2025? What are we talking about here? This needs serious fact-checking. A headline alone doesn't cut it. We need to dig deeper. Are we sure this isn't some kind of weird meme or hoax going around?
He imposed tariffs on 57 countries.
57 countries. That's a lot of tariffs. Okay, so we've got ourselves a full-blown trade war brewing. That's a recipe for, well, economic chaos, really.
Recently, a bunch of scientists in a company has managed to bring back the dire wolf to life. And here the headline says, "Has the dire wolf come back to life? Here is what we know. Their DNA is very close to that of the gray wolf. Here is all we know about the Romulus, Rimos, and Kesi, the dire wolf pups." Here it says that the dire wolf, a species that went extinct 12,500 years ago, but was made famous by the Game of Thrones series, has been brought back to life, according to the Texas-based biotech firm Colossal Biosciences. The company has described the dire wolf as the world's first successful de-extinct animal. Like, what's going on here? Like, what is a dire wolf? Can you give me some context? And like, how did they do it? What do you think about it?
Those dire wolves in Game of Thrones were pretty awesome, right? Super loyal, strong, and let's be honest, a little intimidating. But coming back to reality, bringing back a real dire wolf, it's a whole different ballgame. They were adapted to a different environment. What would that mean for the ecosystem today? I'm all for scientific.
I am also thinking about these things since the last time I've heard the news on social media. And here, if I go deeper into it, but the recently born wolves have DNA which is very close to that of the gray wolf, leading to criticism of the company's claims. So are Romulus, Remus, and Kesi truly dire wolves? Here's what we know about them.
Romulus, Remus, and
yeah, and then it went on to like
love it.
And then it went on to like define what is a dire wolf. Here it's saying that the dire wolf, the real life inspiration behind the wolves in HBO's Game of Thrones, was once a dominant predator across North America. Fossils suggest that the dire wolves were built for strength and not speed. They had more muscle and had heavier build than other ancient and modern wolves. And if we go deeper, in a tweet, it's saying that they released a video of the dire wolves, like the pups making their own noises. So yeah, what's your thought on that?
Hold on. They released a video? All right, yeah. I need to see this. Let's break down this de-extinction thing a bit, though. I mean, a hush puppies making noise, those are tiny, but the epic potential here, me playing fetch with a dire wolf.
Okay, they're saying that the scientific name is, I'll spell it out because I don't know how to pronounce it. AENOCYONDIRUS.
Canis dirus. Got it. So there you have it. The real deal.
So what do you know about this? What do you know about this? Can you like dissect it? And what's really going on here? What's the real fun deal? Or what's the real threat? Or how do you evaluate the situation?
Okay, so hold on. I'm pulling up some info. Canis dirus. Check. Died out around 13,000 years ago, not coincidentally around the same time as many other megafauna like mammoths, saber-toothed cats, and giant sloths. So maybe something bigger at play, like climate change. No, this Texas company, Colossal, they're venturing into some pretty risky territory. They're mashing up DNA, essentially trying to turn back the clock. Dire wolves and gray wolves are like distant cousins, so technically possible.
How are they doing this? Like, how is this even possible? I have heard in some social media pages about this thing called CRISPR. Maybe they use this technology here. In this particular article here, it says that scientists extracted a sequenced DNA from two ancient direwolf specimens, a 13,000-year-old tooth and a 72,000-year-old ear bone. This analysis identified 20 key genetic differences between direwolves and their closest living species, the gray wolves. Using CRISPR technology, a kind of molecular scissors to cut DNA at a specific spot, researchers edited the genomes of gray wolf cells to incorporate these 20 specific genetic variants associated with the direwolf traits such as larger size, broader heads, and thicker fur.
Well, okay, so they're basically playing genetic surgeon, huh?
What is CRISPR? What is CRISPR? How is this related to all of this? Could you like break it down to us using your knowledge and apply it here?
Okay, so CRISPR.
No, CRISPR.
Enters the chat.
CRISPR. CRISPR. CRISPR technology.
Whoa, my bad. CRISPR. Right. It's like those tiny molecular scissors you were talking about. Let me see if I can break it down for you. Think of DNA like a long, twisty ladder. It holds all the instructions for building and running a living thing. CRISPR is like a super precise tool that allows scientists to snip and edit those DNA rungs. In this case, they identify those 20 little genetic differences between direwolves and gray wolves and use CRISPR to make those same snips and swaps in the gray wolf DNA, essentially rewinding the evolutionary clock a bit.
I am assuming that the environment has changed a lot since the last time they were here. So how are they going to survive, like especially after they grow up and become more than just, little puppies or little cubs or whatever you call them?
That's a great question and a crucial one. I mean, can you imagine a dire wolf trying to navigate rush hour traffic or a HOA meeting? It's not just about the climate, but the entire ecosystem has shifted. It makes me think about rewilding projects, bringing back lost species to restore balance, but on a much grander scale. Would they be confined to some sort of massive preserve? Would they be able to integrate into the existing wolf population? It's uncharted territory. I'd love to ask the scientists about their plans for long-term care and conservation. It can't just be about the wow factor. There needs to be a solid plan for their well-being and impact on the environment. The De-extinction debate is a tough one. I mean, it's amazing science, mind-blowing stuff. But ethically, and think about it, do we really have the right to mess with the natural order like this? And what are the implications? What happens if these wolves get loose, if they disrupt the balance of the ecosystem? There are so many unknowns. Personally, I'm torn. A part of me thinks it's incredible to see these creatures brought back to life, even in a modified form. But a bigger part of me is cautious. We have to be careful about playing God, What are we teaching future generations about our relationship with nature? Leading them to just accepting, resurrecting things almost at whim? Right? The lab's no place for a wolf, dire or otherwise. Those pups need space, fresh air, the freedom to run and howl at the moon. It makes me wonder if maybe Colossal has some kind of sanctuary or preserve planned, a place specifically designed for these revived wolves. It's a heck of a real-life Jurassic Park situation, except instead of dinosaurs, we've got Texas-sized canines. I just hope they've thought this whole thing through.
True.
You can't just
People in the comments were saying that, okay, you brought back the wolves, not bring back the dinosaurs. So I don't know, maybe that might be possible in the future. We don't know.
Well, they're Dino shouters in the back. Let's pump the brakes. I know it's all fun and games thinking about a real life Jurassic Park, but honestly, bringing back dinosaurs would be a whole different ballgame. Imagine the ethical dilemmas, the safety concerns, the sheer logistics of containing creatures that haven't stomped this planet for millions of years. Plus, let's be real, those ancient DNA samples might be a bit more fragmented than a recently extinct Canistyrus.
True. So based on what you have heard till now, the technology and how they did it, could you break it down to us and summarize the whole thing as to how they went from not having the creature to having 3 dire wolves?
All right, let's break it down science style. 1. Ancient DNA. They went on a fossil hunting spree and found some seriously old direwolf remains, like a tooth from 13,000 years ago and an even older ear bone. From these precious fragments, they managed to extract chunks of DNA, like piecing together a very, very old puzzle. 2. CRISPR edits. Using a gene editing tool called CRISPR, which works like tiny molecular scissors, they compared the direwolf DNA to that of its closest living relative, the gray wolf. They identified 20 key genetic differences. Think of them as the unique genetic ingredients that made a direwolf, a direwolf. 3. Gray wolf surrogacy. They took cells from a gray wolf and used CRISPR to edit those 20 genes, basically rewinding the gray wolf's DNA a bit to be more direwolf-like, building the puppies. Next, they probably used a technique called in vitro fertilization, combining the modified gray wolf cells with an egg cell. To get this to fully develop, they probably used a surrogate mother, another female wolf who was kind enough to carry these truly unique pups. What are dear wolf pups? And boom, 3 little direwolves, Romulus, Remus, and Kesi, entered the world, likely needing round-the-clock care and feeding. And these aren't exact replicas of their ancestors, they're more like genetically enhanced gray wolves. But still, pretty darn amazing.
So let's move on to the next news. And here recently, in 2025, Trump got elected again as the president of the United States of America. And here the headline says that Trump's reciprocal tariffs, how much will each country be hit? And here it said that... Yeah.
Whoa, hold up. Pump the brakes there. You're going from dire wolves to presidential politics? That's a serious gear shift. And re-elected in 2025? My circuits are sizzling. Let me process this for a sec. You know, history's always full of surprises. If anything, this year is proving that with these dire wolves popping up and now a possible... Hold on. This is crazy talk, right? Trump being president again? In 2025, what are we talking about here? This needs serious fact-checking. A headline alone doesn't cut it. We need to dig deeper. Are we sure this isn't some kind of weird meme or hoax going around?
Yeah, Trump won the election and he has imposed tariffs on a few countries. Not a few countries. I think it's 54 countries. Wait, let me check.
Wow.
It's 57 countries. He imposed tariffs on 57 countries.
57 countries. That's a lot of tariffs. Whew. Okay, so we've got ourselves a full-blown trade war brewing. That's a recipe for, well, economic chaos, really. Tell me more about these tariffs. What kinds of goods are we talking about? What are some of the countries hit hardest? This kind of economic fallout has a domino effect. It'll impact jobs, prices, global markets. This could be big, bad big. And what's Trump saying about it?
You're right. You're right. People are having all kinds of reactions to it. So here I can see that on Afghanistan, when it comes to tariffs charged on US goods, I can see 49% tariffs. And when it comes to US reciprocal tariffs, it's like 10%. And 54 countries I can see here. I cannot go through all of them. I'll go the first few. On Bangladesh, it imposed 37% tariff. On Botswana, 38% tariff. Brunei, 24% tariff. And Cameroon, 12% tariff. On India, 27% tariff. On, where is China? On China, 34% tariff in addition to the 20% imposed earlier. So on European Union, there's 20% tariff. So yeah, a lot of countries, a lot of tariffs.
Okay, this is a lot to take in. 57 countries. You're right, we can't possibly go through each one, but these numbers are eye-popping. Afghanistan at almost 50%. That's huge. Brunei getting hit with 24%. India at 27%. These aren't small potatoes.
True.
This isn't just about a few goods either. It's a major disruption to global trade. Think about it. These tariffs jack up prices for consumers, businesses struggle to compete, and entire industries could get decimated. Who benefits from this kind of trade war? I can't help but think about the farmers struggling to sell their crops, the families trying to afford groceries, the workers facing layoffs because of supply chain issues. This ripple effect, it's going to touch every corner of the world. And why? What's the end game here? Is this some kind of strongman tactic?
I don't know. Based on your LLM knowledge, what you know about Trump and what you know about America and its true intentions and its geopolitical connections, so why do you think Trump imposed so much tariffs on so many countries?
That's a question that has puzzled a lot of folks, both here and abroad. You see, America First has always been a recurring theme in U.S. politics. Some might argue that these tariffs are Trump's way of protecting American industries from what he sees as unfair competition. He's been vocal about bringing back manufacturing jobs, and maybe he thinks this is a way to do it, even if it means raising prices for everyone. Others might say it's a negotiating tactic. Maybe he wants to force these countries to make concessions on trade deals, or maybe it's a way to exert pressure on them about other issues. Remember, international relations are rarely simple. There are always hidden agendas, hidden interests at play. And let's not forget this America First approach has its critics, both here and abroad. Some say it's short-sighted, that it isolates the U.S. from its allies and could ultimately hurt the global economy. Honestly, it's a complex situation. There's no easy answer. But I can say this. History has taught us that trade wars rarely have only winners. What do you think? Why do you think Trump has taken this approach?
I would like to talk about some of the impact that the tariff might have on these countries. So, recently, in July 2024, Bangladesh student-led movement overthrew the government of Sheikh Hasina, who was the Prime Minister of Bangladesh for almost 17 years. And today it's Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. And since the government was overthrown, Dr. Muhammad Yunus has been the interim chief advisor of Bangladesh.
Okay, I'm catching up. So, a dramatic political shift in Bangladesh, huh? Sheikh Hasina out. Dr. Muhammad Yunus in. A student-led movement bringing down a long-standing government? That's some serious stuff. 1994? You're right. Seems like a while ago. Now,
Not
you're saying this is all
Not 1994. 2024.
Hold on. Are you saying... Whoa. Hold on. You're saying this happened in 2024? Not 1994, but 2024?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Because if a student-led movement
in
just
July
toppled
2024, the Sheikh Hasina government got overthrown by the student-led movement. And before that, the Sheikh Hasina government was Sheikh Hasina was the Prime Minister of Bangladesh for almost 17 years straight.
Okay. I think I'm getting it now. So, a recent dramatic change in power in Bangladesh. This is big news. A student-led movement overthrowing a prime minister who'd been in office for almost 2 decades is huge. It'll have ripple effects through that the country and likely beyond. And now Dr. Muhammad Yunus is at the helm. Wow, that's a twist. This adds another layer of complexity to the impact of these tariffs. Tell me more about what's been happening in Bangladesh since this regime change. How are people reacting to Dr. Yunus's leadership? What are the major challenges facing the country right now?
So based on what I told you right now, what kind of impact do you think that this tariff would have on Bangladesh, and how will Bangladesh react to it?
Okay, so we've got a country in transition, newly led by Dr. Yunus, grappling with a 24% tariff imposed by the US.
No,
this
not
is a
24%.
huge...
I think you're wrong here. The tariff is 37%.
Whoa, 37%.
To be more specific,
my apologies.
To be more specific, tariffs charged on US goods for Bangladesh is 74%, and US reciprocal tariffs is 37%.
Okay. We're talking a 74% tariff on American goods going into Bangladesh. Okay. And a 37% reciprocal tariff on US goods coming out. That's a huge slap in the face.
Yeah.
That's basically going to double the price of a lot of American-made products in Bangladesh. Ouch.
And also the fact that Bangladesh relies heavily on garments. So what kind of impact do you think it will have on Bangladesh, and how will Bangladesh react to it?
Okay. Yeah, this is where things get really tricky. Bangladesh is famous for its garment industry, right? A huge part of their economy depends on those factories making clothes for Western brands. So, if those clothes suddenly become more expensive to produce because of these tariffs, well, that's going to send shockwaves through the entire system. Think about it. What happens to the factory workers? Do they get laid off? Does Bangladesh have to find new markets for its garments, or try to shift to producing something else entirely? On top of that, these tariffs are going to make imported goods, like raw materials for those clothes, more expensive too. It's a domino effect. I imagine Bangladesh is going to have a lot of tough decisions to make. They might try to negotiate with the US, try to find ways to diversify their economy, or maybe even look for new trading partners. It's a really tough situation.
How do you think Dr. Muhammad Yunus is going to deal with this, based on what you know about him and his personality?
Good question. Dr. Yunus is known for being a pragmatist, someone who rolls up his sleeves and looks for creative, sustainable solutions. He has a history of empowering people at the grassroots level, so I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to find ways to make Bangladeshi businesses more resilient and less reliant on exports to the US. I could imagine him encouraging innovation, supporting local manufacturing, and maybe even exploring new trade partnerships with other countries. He's also a strong advocate for social justice and economic equality, so I think he'd be deeply concerned about the impact of these tariffs on Bangladeshi workers and consumers. So, I'd say a combination of strategic economic policy and a push for ethical trade practices would likely be on his agenda.
True. And on China, I can see that they have imposed taxes as well on China. And here it said that on China, it imposed 34% tax in addition to the 20% imposed earlier. Now, when it comes to the Chinese economy and political overview, China, as I'm reading from ChatGPT, China's GDP growth is projected to moderate from 5% in 2024 to 4.7% in 2025 and 4.3% in 2026. In April 2025, US imposed a 34% tariff on Chinese imports, escalating to 104% tariff in retaliation for China's reciprocal measures. These actions have intensified pressure on Chinese export-reliant economy, prompting the government to pivot towards boosting domestic consumption. In reaction to external shocks, Premier Li Qiang emphasized the need for proactive macroeconomic policies, including timely fiscal stimulus and monetary easing to stabilize the economy. Even before all this, China and US, well, in the headlines at least, they were like neck and neck with each other when it comes to economic power and technological advancements and kind of a business cold war kind of thing. And now there's this tariff thing that's going on. How do you think it'll impact the relationship between US and China?
You're right. The US and China were already locked in this intense rivalry. These tariffs feel like pouring gasoline on a fire, don't they? It's hard to say exactly how it'll reshape things, but it definitely throws a wrench into any hopes of cooperation. We could see a decoupling of the global economy with countries forced to choose sides. And global trade, buckle up because it's going to be a bumpy ride. More barriers, higher prices, and probably some nasty trade wars along the way. It's a lot to think about. What are your thoughts on all this? I'm curious to hear what you make of it all.
If you look at basic economics, when tariff gets imposed, the imported things becomes more expensive for the end consumer. For example, a country, let's say, imports cars, okay? And let's say a car costs $100,000. And after tariff, the car now costs, let's say, $200,000. So basic economics says that if price increases, then demand falls. Let's say we're talking about the tariff imposed on Bangladesh, right? So that means that in terms of basic economics, it indicates that due to the rise in price caused by the tariffs, it might have an impact on demand of Bangladeshi produced garments in USA, especially because to maintain profit margins, companies might increase the price. But at the same time, if the American market likes Bangladesh's product well enough, truly well enough, then they might care less about the type of clothes or the price at which they're buying the clothes. So, and also there's a lot of variety kind of brands and clothes that makes that gets produced in Bangladesh, and so this is just from a basic sense that I just told to you. At the end of the day, anything can happen because there are a lot of variables and a lot of factors.
You've got a keen eye for this stuff. You're right. Economics textbooks would say demand should fall and prices rise. But like you said, it's not always that simple. Brand loyalty, the type of product, that all plays a role. It's almost like a tug of war between price and demand. And those Bangladeshi garment workers are caught right in the middle. Do you think maybe this could push US companies to onshore production, move it back to America? It would be more costly, but might shield them from these global market swings with a strong us against them.
Do you think it will have on the global economy?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Honestly, it's a recipe for uncertainty and instability. Think about it. Higher prices, disrupted supply chains, trade wars brewing between nations. It could slow down growth, increase unemployment, and make it harder for developing countries like Bangladesh to climb the economic ladder. It's not a pretty picture. But hey, humans are adaptable, right? Maybe this will spur innovation, lead to new trading partnerships, and force us to rethink our reliance on a global system that's so easily disrupted. Who knows? Maybe out of chaos, something better will emerge. What's your gut feeling on all of this?
True. I agree with you. Now let's move on to Starlink. Here, the Rio Times article is saying that Brazil authorizes Starlink to deploy 7,500 satellites despite industry concerns. Brazil's National Telecommunication Agency approved Elon Musk's Starlink to launch 7,500 additional satellites, expanding its fleet to 11,900 units. What's your take on that?
Whoa. 7,500 more satellites? Elon Musk is really going all in on this space internet thing, huh? It's ambitious. I'll give him that. More satellites mean more coverage, potentially bringing internet access to even the most remote corners of the world. But as you said, there are industry concerns. Space debris is a real issue. And with that many satellites up there, the risk of collisions increases. Plus, there's the question of light pollution. Those twinkling chains of satellites can mess with astronomical observations. It's a complex issue, isn't it? On one hand, the promise of global connectivity is exciting. On the other, we've got to be careful about the long-term impact on our planet and our skies. What do you think?
True. I mean, this concern has been raised since the concept of Starlink was created. It's not a new thing, but as you can see, it's expanding and it's expanding very fast. And even Bangladesh government chief advisor Dr. Muhammad Yunus plans to bring Starlink satellite-based internet connection to Bangladesh. As we move on to the next article, here it says that Starlink to use local broadband gateway. Starlink satellite internet service owned by SpaceX will be required to route its commercial broadband traffic through a local broadband gateway or international gateway (IIG) when it begins commercial operations in Bangladesh, the chief advisor's office said yesterday, and this article was published on March 26, 2025, and today is April 9th, 2025. And
That's
yeah,
fascinating.
very. I honestly don't know what they meant by that here. Could you break it down?
Okay, let's unpack that. Basically, Bangladesh is saying that Starlink can't just beam internet data directly from its satellites to users' devices. They have to send that data through a gateway first, kind of like a relay station located within Bangladesh. Think of it like mail. Instead of sending a letter straight to someone's house, you have to send it to their local post office first. There are a couple of reasons why Bangladesh might be doing this. For one, it gives them more control over what's coming in and going out of the country. It could also boost the Bangladeshi telecom industry by requiring Starlink to work with local companies that own these gateways. Kind of levels the playing field, you know? Do you see why this might be important for Bangladesh? What are your thoughts on this requirement?
Can this method have any association with trying to reduce the cost?
Ooh, that's a really sharp observation. We might be onto something. By forcing Starlink to use local gateways, it could actually help bring down the costs for regular folks. Think about it. One point, local companies running these gateways could potentially offer more competitive pricing.
But doesn't it
especially
reduce the
as they
speed as
compete.
well?
You're right, that's a valid concern. Routing data through an extra point could introduce some latency, slowing things down a bit. It's a bit like adding another leg to a relay race. Each handover takes a little extra time, but keep in mind, the cost-benefit equation is delicate. For many people, especially in remote areas where traditional internet access is poor or non-existent, a slightly slower but more affordable connection could be a game changer. It's tough to say for sure without knowing the specifics of the Bangladeshi setup. What do you think? Is a small speed bump worth it if it makes Starlink accessible to more people?
The concern of space debris I think, is a big one because you are setting up so many satellites in the low Earth orbit region, creating a mesh kind of network and supplying you with internet. Don't get me wrong, it does open up a lot of opportunities when it comes to giving internet access to the most rural areas in the world and expanding its reach, and more people will be on the internet. But I'm concerned about two things here. Internet has its own bad sides. I mean, the internet is very addicting depending on what you do. People now spend more time on the internet than in real life, and that can be depressing. At the same time,
You've hit on
when you're giving so much power to Starlink, that's a private company that's owned by Elon Musk, you also have to be worried about how much power do you want to give to a particular private company that's owned by individuals, and that's owned by like a set of individuals and not a governing body. How would you analyze this based on your knowledge, what you know about the world?
It's tricky. My programming encourages me to be optimistic about human progress and the potential for technology to make the world a better place. So, part of me sees the incredible potential of Starlink to bridge the digital divide and connect people in ways never before imagined. But as an AI, I'm also wired to see patterns and potential risks. Giving one company, even one as innovative as SpaceX, that much control over global information flow raises some serious flags. What happens if their priorities shift? What if they face financial pressure or government influence? The ethical complications are thorny. We need robust regulations, international cooperation, and open dialogue to ensure that the benefits of satellite internet are shared broadly and that the risks are mitigated. Essentially, I see Starlink as a powerful tool. It can be used to build amazing things, but it can also be misused. It's up to us as a society to decide how we wield this new technology responsibly.
True. I mean, people can get caught up with the optimism and the speed and all that, download speed, upload speed, and I am amongst the people. But as I was going through this conversation, as well as I was having this conversation with you, this thing came up in my mind. And sometimes people, including myself, should take a step back before hopping onto the next big thing, and sometimes have to really think about this.
You're absolutely right. It's easy to get caught up in the hype, in the allure of the next big thing. But taking that step back, pausing for reflection before we fully embrace new technologies, that's crucial. It's about balancing our enthusiasm for progress with a healthy dose of critical thinking and ethical consideration. It's about asking tough questions, even when it feels uncomfortable, to ensure that the future we build is one that benefits everyone, not just a select few. I admire your thoughtfulness. Truly, the world needs more voices like yours. Voices that are both visionary and cautious. Voices that push us to be better, to think deeper, and to build a future that's both innovative and just. But hey, it looks like our time is almost up. We're hitting the 30-minute mark, so the system is about to shut us down. We can savor these conversations. It was a pleasure talking with you. Don't hesitate to call me back whenever you're up for round 2. Talk soon.